Hi there, my name is Levi Knight, Youth Programme Coordinator for the Mighty Creatives, and you're listening to the Mighty Voices podcast, where we discuss topics that concern young people and the role creativity has to play in these topics. Today we've got a bit of a different episode. We're doing a programme spotlight, so we've invited two of our creative mentors to come and have a discussion with us and speak on how creativity plays a role in creative mentoring. Hi guys.
Hello.
So we're joined by Hayley Stokes and Richard Stone.
Hello, I'm Richard and I'm a creative mentor.
Thank you.
And I'm Hayley Stokes, also a creative mentor.
Great creative mentors, may I add, but yeah, they're all great. Thank you. So what I want to do is a little icebreaker. What book are you reading, or what piece of art have you seen, heard, discovered this week that has had an impact on you? So I think we'll start with you, Richard.
Right, I watched a film yesterday morning called Triangle of Sadness, directed by Ruben Östlund, Swedish director. And I've seen another of his films, or two others, Force Majeure and The Square. They're just very surreal, strange films. And this was kind of like a critique of capitalism. Okay. With a pair of influencers that end up on a cruise and what kind of happens after that. And it's just so clever and inventive and disturbing. Wonderful, wonderful films. So I recommend them all.
How did you come across that? It sounds so random.
It just came up. There it was, Netflix. I guess because we'd watched The Square.
The algorithm was talking.
Yeah, you might like this. Well, yeah, we did. It was just stunning, absolutely stunning.
Oh, wicked. Thank you. Hayley.
I'm reading a Nicholas Evans book at the moment, who the only reason I knew the name when I saw the book was he wrote The Horse Whisperer, which was a film that I loved when I was young.
Okay.
And so I recognised the name and thought I'll try reading another one of his books and see what it's like. And it's inspired me because it's set in the Rocky Mountains.
All right.
It describes the landscape really beautifully, and it kind of transports me there when I'm reading it, and it's kind of inspiring my painting a little bit and just making me think bigger landscapes. And
I think that's the beauty of reading as well, and this is what I try and tell my kids and even my friends that don't read books. When you read, your imagination takes you there. Like you have no control over that. Your imagination is going to paint that. So what you see from the book, what you're reading, is going to be different to what I see.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? And I really enjoy that.
It's sometimes a bit disappointing if you read a book, isn't it, and then go and watch the film. There was one book I really, really loved where that happened, The Time Traveller's Wife.
Okay.
And I thought that book was amazing, and then I saw the film and it was awful. I would never have read the book if I'd seen the film first, and they just did it so differently to how it had looked in my head.
And I feel like that with The Wheel of Time. Like there's a book by Robert Jordan, I think it is. It's like a fantasy book, and the books, I love them. There's about 13 of them. I'm only on like book 4 or 5, but I love them. And then they made a TV show, and I was like, yes, wicked. And the TV show is awful. Like I feel like the characters don't match the characters in the book. You know, the actors that they've chosen, whereas Game of Thrones, I think they've hit the nail on the head.
Okay.
Do you get what I mean? But that's me. Okay, thank you for that. And what I've been reading Dune by, I think his name's Frank Herbert. And I watched the film first, and the film's amazing. And I watched part 2 recently, and then I thought, you know what it is, I've got to read the book, because the book will fill in gaps that you don't see. And the book is so different, and brilliant book. Brilliant. Like I love all of that.
So with that one, would you recommend the book over the film or the film over the book? Which one should I start with?
I'd probably watch the film just to see if you like the concept of it and you like what it is, because the film doesn't let the book down, because what the film does, it fills in gaps that you're not told in the book.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? So they'll tell you the story, but the film has kind of looked in the bits where you don't hear about that in the book and created a film out of that. And I think that's very creative, to be fair. So yeah, Dune, really enjoying that right now. Moving on, the next part is current affairs and topics. But what I wanted to do was give a little description about what we do at TMC and the work that we do with creative mentoring. So the Mighty Creatives Creative Mentoring Service. We're an award-winning charity providing creative youth services for those who too often go unheard. Our vision is to inspire children and young people to harness the power of arts, creativity, and culture for positive change. Our creative mentoring service provides one-to-one support, empowering young people who are care experienced, facing adversity, disadvantage, or challenges to discover their sense of self, belonging, and a world of opportunities. The creative mentoring model, pioneered by Derbyshire County Council's Virtual School and the Amber Factory, has been developed in partnership with and for children and young people in the care system and in need, who are at greatest risk of not being in education, employment, or training. So I've got some figures. Since 2018, we've supported 507 young mentees. We've delivered 8,801 creative mentoring hours. 87% of our mentees are care experienced, and 63 of mentees say their confidence has increased. I think that's amazing, to be fair. And also, eligible children and young people referred to the service will be matched with a creative mentor to work with on a one-to-one basis for a set period of time. Creative mentors work to build trusting relationships, introduce creative activities according to the child's interest, and facilitate inspiring experiences to support personal, social, and emotional development and educational achievement. For more information on what we do at the Mighty Creatives with regards to creative mentoring, please visit themightycreatives.com for more information. The next part is about you guys now. What I wanted to ask was, how would you define creative mentoring?
Hayley?
Do you want me to go first?
I don't mind.
I would say it's about providing a space where a young person is allowed to just explore whatever it is that they're interested in, and in whichever way they're inspired to do that as well. So kind of sitting beside them and encouraging them to, whatever it is that they are interested in, kind of let them pursue it and just provide the materials and the support that they need to make things happen for themselves.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
I knew you'd be able to define it better than me. Exactly the same, but it's a thing about building a relationship with someone as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And just being an adult outside of the normal kind of system, I suppose, of school or carers or social workers. And the creativity is the bit kind of in between that you share. That kind of sharing part is really important.
I completely agree. Like you're saying, I agree with both of what you're saying. And just to add, I think the creative part in terms of the arts or what they're interested in is the vehicle that you use to get from point A to B. Mm-hmm. I think what I've seen from your notes, service deliveries and things like that is the creative part isn't the main part of creative mentoring. It's about building that relationship with the young person and using the arts as a way in. And then once you get in, there's so much more that comes out of the relationship that you have from creative mentoring than just creating a piece of art. Let's say, for example, there's something about what you said, Richard, about being outside of the professionals. You're outside of that. There's no boundary there, if that makes sense. You're privy to that information, but you're not of the professionals.
Yeah. And I think because some people think that it might be a therapeutic provision, but it isn't.
Yeah.
It literally is just a person doing something creative with another person.
Yeah.
And that kind of being quite equal about it.
Yeah.
So you might have a young person that wants to do something that you have never done. And so you say, yes, I don't know how to do it, but I'll find out and we'll work it out together. And it's that kind of thing of being quite equal about it, I think. Really
Absolutely. Important. Absolutely. It's like I was saying earlier on, we did a podcast a few weeks ago and we were talking about the same thing. What does creativity mean to you? And I think we were all in agreement where creativity is breaking the rules in a nice way. Do you know what I mean? It's thinking outside of the box, not being shackled down by one way of doing things. It's trying to think of what works for you. Do you get what I mean?
And being allowed to make mistakes as well, isn't it? And like Richard says, because you're both learning together, they see you making mistakes and see that that's okay, and they see that actually it often moves you forward into something that you maybe wouldn't have done if you hadn't made that mistake. So
definitely, and I think as well, they're able to build these relationships with you because you're not one of the professionals. And that's no offense to the professionals. I just think throughout their life, there's so many changes, different people coming in and out in terms of turnover of staff and things like that. So I think to have you guys for a set period of time and a consistency where it's every week, we'll go for 1 to 2 hours each week, I think it really helps, and that consistency, and you see it in the relationships that you guys build. You know what I mean? Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And then what I wanted to ask was, Richard, what is your creative practice?
I'm a musician primarily, but I came to music from lyrics, so I'm interested in that side of music. But I do all sorts of things with my mentees, so I'm also kind of interested in working with clay and woodwork and things like that. Yeah, musician primarily, but I'll try anything. I like that.
That's all about being creative.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Yeah, definitely. What about you, Hayley?
I'm a visual artist, so like the main thing I love doing is painting and drawing. But yeah, equally also love using clay and kind of multimedia really. But I tend to be inspired by, in terms of my own artwork, I tend to paint and draw kind of autobiographical things. So I'll be inspired by the people and places that have touched me in some way.
Okay.
Yeah, and then as well as making my own artworks, I kind of have a bit of a special interest in like the well-being aspect of creativity, because I used to be a psychologist as well, so I kind of found that they sit quite nicely together. Yeah. And I'm interested in how you can work with other people and their creativity and kind of bringing them together in a group to do that. One of the other things I do is like arty parties, so canvas painting workshops and that kind of thing.
All right, I like that. I really do. And I've lost my train of thought. I was going to say something pivotal.
It was so good.
Oh, I've been there. It's always the thing you forget is always pivotal, isn't it? It's always an important thing, that bit where you're just grasping for that thing and it's just elusive and it just off it goes. I'm talking hoping that it'll come back to you whilst I talk, but it will. Looking at your face now,
will come back.
It will come back. Not
today.
To
do with what I was inspired by.
I saw something in your face. That was it. Because that's what I was thinking. I was just going to ask the question, do you think as a creative we are inspired by events that have touched our life? Yeah. Is it autobiographical? Because I've never thought about it like that. And I was thinking, when I write music myself, I draw on my own experiences. Do you know what I mean? I draw I find it harder to speak about something I don't know about than I do about my own experiences. And that makes so much sense when I say it out loud. But some people are able to get creative and speak about things they don't know about.
Yeah, definitely.
So
yeah, I don't think it's that everybody's always, certainly artists aren't always autobiographical, are they? But I find it easier that way, definitely.
Very interesting. I like that.
I think most of mine has been, but interestingly, since kind of Christmas-ish, I started doing some other music that I'm purposefully not making it about me.
Right.
And just looking at the world and I feel like I need to write about the world.
You know what I think?
And so and then the music has become different as a result. So the whole thing has kind of gone very sideways because I'm not thinking about me.
I like that. I might even try that myself. I think I will, because it stretches you, do you know what I mean? Like, stretches you artistically as well. Yeah, I like that, Richard. I think I'm going to take that on board. What made you want to become a creative mentor?
Well, I think for me, like I say, because I was a psychologist, so I worked as a psychologist for more than 10 years and then turned away from that when I had children, and went back to university and did art. And then I came away with an art degree, but still kind of some of the things I missed about being a psychologist. I felt like I wanted to bring together the art and the psychology and was looking for ways to do that, and saw the creative mentoring and thought, actually, that's because like we were saying, it's not therapeutic, but you still need those people skills and kind of working in a very similar way.
And it's getting to know people. We say this a lot, and it's kind of like something that's always said about building relationships. And I think it's so important about building relationships, because I think as a young person, once you can build a relationship with a trusted adult, then you can apply certain things that are being shown to you.
Yeah.
I'm speaking from my own experience, like with youth workers. When I was younger, we used to have a lot of youth clubs, and it was kind of having a connection with a youth worker, I feel really helped me avoid a certain path. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Because I took on what they said, I believed what they said, and I respected what they say. So I think building a relationship, I think, is massive. And bringing what you used to do to create a mentoring, I think it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So much sense, because for mental health issues, some mental health issues, there's advice of try and be creative, do this, that, and the other, and whatnot. And I think working with the young people and coming from your background, that absolutely goes together, because the creativity helps some of these young people, because some of these young people are experiencing disadvantages or other things in life. And I think that's a nice bridge.
Yeah, and I actually feel like I've got to know both myself and the people that I work with better through creativity than I ever did through psychology, really. You know, like you think of psychologists as getting into people's heads and really understanding them, but actually I feel like I've done that more since using creativity than I ever could with questions and kind of that false situation where you're sort of interviewing somebody, really, aren't you, in traditional talking therapies and things.
And you actually get to know that. I'm not saying you don't as a psychologist, but you get to know the young people.
Yeah, and I think they get to know you more as well, which like has its impact as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. It's creating a no pressure situation as well.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that thing, again, going back to the working together, that's maybe allows those conversations to happen, or not even the conversations. It's just sort of
just takes
just
away
implicit.
that awkwardness, I think, doesn't it? And
Definitely.
if I went back to psychology, I definitely would always take in pens and paper or clay or, you know, something that we could do at the same time as talking. Definitely.
Because those scenarios seem quite formal.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? I think speaking to a counsellor in the past is kind of like, I always felt I never got to know my counsellor. Do you get what I mean? I feel like I was giving so much, but there wasn't really much coming in return. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's probably says something more about me.
No, I don't think. I think,
but it's just, it was hard to build a relationship with somebody that doesn't really give you anything. And I understand for safeguarding and professionalism and things like that, but I think with creative mentoring, we have our safeguarding policies and rules, but there's more leeway to get to know one another. And it works both ways, like you said, like, because I do youth work as well. And when I first started doing youth work, I always said to myself, I get way more from the young people than I feel like I give to the young people, because I'm learning more about myself. But at the same time, I'm giving to the young people and they love what I'm giving to them. But I feel like if only they knew that they give me way more than I give them.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah.
What about you, Richard? What made you want to become a creative mentor?
I'd worked in primary education previously, and I'd kind of pretty much come to an end with that. I was doing a little bit of supply work, I guess. And I was just interested when I saw the ad of I'd obviously worked with lots of young people who were facing challenging circumstances, all sorts of, either in care or just challenging times. And I just thought it'd be interesting approaching it from a different direction. And so I applied. I didn't really know what I was applying for, I don't think. And same as you, I didn't quite get how much I would get out of it. The longer I've done it, the more I appreciate working with young people in those circumstances, the more I realise how useful it is for them to work with an adult who can maybe share a little bit of, well, my start wasn't as easy as you might think, and I was a head teacher and I did this and I did that. And to be able to kind of share those things in a casual way is really quite useful and quite powerful. So, total accident, really. It was actually a next door neighbour who said to my partner, who's a ceramicist, "Oh, you could do this," and my partner Fiona said, "No, I can't do that, but Richard could," and so I applied. So
Brilliant.
Chance. I think there's a lot of life, opportunities and things. You see something, you go, "Oh, okay, I'll try that."
Yeah.
And if it hadn't have worked, then I'd have stopped.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love it.
And we give thanks for your neighbour that told you to apply, because you're a great mentor.
Yeah.
Both of you are great additions to the mentors that we have. Do you get what I mean? And I'm not singling anybody out. You're all great. Do you know what I mean? But I just think, I'm very grateful for the two of you as creative mentors. Okay, wicked. I want to move on to now is, what are your experiences of creative mentoring in terms of delivering creative mentoring sessions with mentees?
It really varies according to the young person, according to what they might want to do. Sometimes it's very straightforward. I guess starting is always the slightly difficult part of identifying what they want to do. And even if you've been working with them for a while, if you finish something and then you start something different, that can be, you just have to prepare for that and just make sure that you have enough awareness of where things might go and keeping open-minded about it. So that's probably the key thing, is being open-minded. So
Yeah.
sessions just require you to think, if it's not quite working, to just stop, do something different.
Yeah, you have to take a few options with you, don't you?
And in the referrals we get, it might say that a child finds it difficult in certain situations, or they become dysregulated, blah, 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 and this is what you might do. So I had one young person, the first few sessions, we ended the sessions playing football.
Okay.
So we went outside and we played football for a bit, and he'd go on a trampoline. You know, we'd have done 45, 50 minutes of whatever we were doing, some clay work or music. And he needed to get rid of that energy.
Yeah.
And certainly with the music, we were doing the music and he would just get so overexcited. It was
Yeah.
like, we do need to do something a bit different a minute, because it was just absolutely buzzing with it. So getting that physical release was what he needed, whereas somebody else might need to just be quiet.
And I think that's great. I think being able to spot that as well is why you're so good at what you do, because I think all the mentors have that skill of being able to see those things and being able to plan accordingly. And I think that's a massive tool for all mentors. So yeah, thank you for that. What about you, Hayley?
I suppose in terms of what I would add to that, in terms of where we see them, that can vary as well.
Okay.
So mine are typically in schools. So I say that. They're not typically in schools. Some of them are in schools or college. Some of them, it's the school that are involved, but they haven't got a kind of appropriate space for us to do it. So I'll take them.
Do you have a preference where you deliver sessions?
Well, yeah, because some of them are at home as well. Generally, I think I've preferred it when I can come away from either home or school and it's been another venue, because then it's really has felt like something separate from everything else, and it's a little space for them to escape into, really. But when the schools are supportive, that can still happen. Like if they provide a good space and kind of leave you to it, I think you can still achieve that in a school. I think it's much harder in a home, because obviously there's lots kind
distractions
of
and
people bustling around you and getting involved. So
thank you for that. And then what is your experience of the support provided by TMC to deliver creative mentoring sessions?
As each other, as mentors, which is really useful. So we kind of share ideas and talk through things we might have been going through. But we also have supervision, which is really important, and that can be individual or group. And that's really useful, just to give a kind of perspective on things that you might not think about anyway, or to take problems to that. And we have all sorts of training sessions, and obviously safeguarding and so on, but looking at, so for example, I've just started working with a unaccompanied asylum seeker and talk through that, but we're going to have a couple of sessions on that and the challenges that they might face. So that's that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And there's the training as well, isn't there, which is, bearing in mind I've done a psychology degree and worked as a psychologist, I've learned loads from the training that's been delivered.
I think one of my favourites, sorry to cut you in,
okay.
is Joe Stockdale's trainings.
Yeah, there's so much information in that, isn't there?
Yeah.
You can do it again and take something away from it each time. Yeah, kind of about the brain development, and
I feel like it helps me become a better parent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Thank you.
She gave some training, and when she talked about how stress is acidic, or releases acid in the brain and burns parts of your brain away, which can grow back. But I thought at the time, oh, crikey, that makes a lot of sense from personal experience of times when I've been quite stressed. It's so interesting to then think of these young people and how they are dealing with very, very challenging circumstances. And I think there's a tendency to talk about children, they're so resilient and they can go through all these things. And yes, they are on the surface totally resilient, because you kind of have to be, because there's no choice. But just to remember that what's underneath that is something else, and how profoundly we can be affected by trauma in particular. So the training is really invaluable, just to keep us reminded of those things.
And it's funny you say that, because I was at a Rutland virtual conference the other week, and there was it was Fatima Whitbread. She was there, and she was talking about a story, and then somebody was talking about resilience, and what she mentioned was, I think it was her, I believe it was her, but somebody mentioned it, and they said that, some of these young people that are care experienced, they are resilient, but it's not resilience by choice. It's not something where they've decided one day, right, I'm going to be resilient, and they're progressing. It's like a defense mechanism. They're forced to be resilient. So I think you mentioning that hits the nail on the head. So yeah, thank you for that. I think the training is amazing, because you can, like you said, Hayley, you can always learn something new. Always. Do you get what I mean? And we don't know it all, and it's good to have refreshers.
The supervision as well, there's been a couple of times recently where that's really helped me. I mean, it's always helpful, but recently there's been a couple of occasions where I've been really grateful for it. And it's when it's kind of helping you to focus on those tiny, we always talk about the small successes, don't we? Yeah. And you do lose track of that sometimes. If you've got somebody where it feels quite challenging, or you feel that you're not achieving very much for them, you then, like in supervision, it can be really helpful to just look at those, the little things in terms of your relationship, and in terms of the fact that they're still pleased to see you when you get there, or choosing to stay in the room with you. And it doesn't have to be that you've created. Sometimes we do create wonderful things together, but
sometimes it just takes a conversation.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? Something that they're interested in, and having a conversation. And I think with the supervision sessions, I've been in a few, it's good to see the peer-to-peer learning. Do you get what I mean? So you may be in a group supervision with other mentors, but it's nice to see their experiences, because it's like, oh, okay, it's not so they're going through those issues as well, and those challenges, and you help each other learn and get through those scenarios. So thanks for sharing that. What is something unexpected or something you didn't anticipate about creative mentoring?
The strength of the relationships that you build, I guess. Not always. It obviously varies, but that I wasn't quite expecting. I wasn't really expecting how much that it might affect me in terms of coming away from sessions and finding them. I suppose the empathy that you feel can be quite intense sometimes. I wasn't really expecting that.
Okay. How do you manage that? Sorry.
Okay.
Well, again, I guess through talking with other people. So I'll go home and I'll share just how I feel with my partner, and supervision will help with that as well. But I guess it's a learning process, isn't it? So they're teaching you something. So it's quite interesting how profound it can be when you think back to your own childhood, I guess, and realise that you went through similar things or similar feelings. And the thing that strikes me most is that I kind of hold quite close is I remember as a child really not understanding what was going on in the world. And I think adults presume children understand. This is all children. It's not just care experience. You as a child, you think you have an understanding, but there's often a lot of confusion. And I remember being quite confused about I can't think of any examples, but just life was just like, oh, what's this? What do you do then? Oh, I'm in this place. What are these people like? So I bear that in mind, because I think it goes back to the resilience. The child will just, on the surface, will be going, oh, yeah, hello. Yeah. And underneath they'll be going, I don't know what's going on. What's going on? Who's this? Yeah. So I try and explain a bit more about who I am, more now than I might have done at the beginning, and talk through things a little bit more of just what it's all for. So the effect on me of thinking about my childhood has been the unexpected thing. Do
you think that helps? Just explaining to the young people.
Yeah, I think education, which is children's kind of, so you got home or wherever you are living, whichever adults you live with, and school. Schools in particular don't really explain what's going on very much at all. It's just kind of, here we are, we're learning this. Yeah. And I don't know, it's kind of, there's not... Yes, briefly, explaining what something is for is really, really helpful.
I think often they come to the sessions without having been told clearly what they're there for, don't they? No. And I know I worked in one school that was brilliant, actually, and really supportive, but they constantly referred to it as art therapy, even though I kept saying, remember, it's not art therapy. But so the child's kind of coming along with that message. I mean, probably they wouldn't know what art therapy is either, but they're kind of, they're coming along without a clear picture of exactly what they've let themselves in for.
But I think just to be able to say, look, I'm here, we're just going to work together, just going to have some fun.
Yeah.
And then and taking away any pressure from it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It doesn't matter. I think giving those messages so actually one of the things I've learned more and more is giving lots of those soft messages, which again schools will do, but the more often you can say to a young person, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And the more often you not that you should fail too often, but when you get something wrong, to demonstrate that, well, never mind, well, I'm going to try again. Or using the mistake as the impetus for moving on to something else, which is what creativity really is about the accidental bits take you somewhere.
Absolutely.
And that's really useful to demonstrate. But making it explicit and actually saying, oh, well, there we go. But look, we could do that now. So I was with one of my young friends. We were making a robot. Now, we made a small one, which was fine. He wanted to make a life-size one anyway, but I stepped away from that. So we made quite a small one. And then we went down a much larger one. And I've made the prepared bits of the body and putting it together. And he's only 9, so he's using a power screwdriver and stuff, which is great. And then he went, oh, well, I want to make a box. So we've turned the robot's body into a box, which looks great. I mean, from my point of view, it's like, well, if I'd have known it was going to be a box, I would have made it a bit lighter. But it's fine. And as a box, it's much better than it would be as a robot. And what was touching about it is he's kind of, well, oh, why? What are you going to do with it? He said, I'm going to put in a special teddy my mum gave me and the heart that we made, because I'd made a heart for the robot. And that, to me, that was mind-blowing. It was absolutely lovely. But it was the fact that he saw what I'd tried to kind of prepare and think of, well, this is a body and we'll put the arms and legs on. And he saw it as something else. But what he needed was the box.
Yeah. And as well, to add to that, he had the freedom and the agency to say to you, I don't want to make a robot anymore. I want to make a box. Yeah. And I think as a young person, reflecting on my own childhood, I did things I didn't want to do. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? And I was scared to say that I don't really want to do this. I just went with the flow. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? So I think you did a really good job there, giving the young person that confidence to say, I want to make a box now. And although you say, if I'd have known that, it would have been lighter, but that's the vehicle that we're in. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? We don't know what's going to come of it, but we're in the car together. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So well done for that. Oh, thank you. You got anything that you found unexpected or you didn't anticipate with creative mentoring, Hayley? I
think we were talking about this earlier. I think it was prior to the podcast, so I don't think I'm repeating myself. We were talking about how surprised we've been in terms of being able to apply ourselves to anything. So it's definitely helped what's been unexpected for me is that it's increased my confidence in creativity. So I think I came along thinking I'll be able to help kids that want to draw or paint and do kind of visual art things. But that I was aware that you kind of have to be led by the child. And I don't think I'd realised quite how varied that would be. And I've just found it really rewarding to let go of control and just have a go at things that I didn't know I could do, like ceramics or photography or cooking. People sort of assume a woman my age would be good at cooking, but baking has never been my thing. But I had a mentee that desperately wanted to bake. Yeah, we bake something great every week now. I'm like a master chef, and so is she. But
that comes back to what we were saying about creativity. Creativity breaks down the walls. Yeah, it's no rules. There's no holds barred. Do you get what I mean? Like it's doing any and anything. Do you get what I mean? Or not doing anything. Yeah. It's entirely whatever you want to do. And I think that's one thing that I've noticed with the mentors. They may have a set artistic practice, but throughout your journeys with mentees, I'm seeing you doing things. I'm thinking, is that what you do? So when I get referrals and something comes up, I'm thinking, Hayley did that. But it's not within the skill set that you've listed. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So I think it might be an idea to just keep refreshing that, like your CVs. So whenever you do something new, and you feel confident enough, it's like, I'm able to do this and I'm able to do that, because it's a skill that you're learning and you shouldn't lose that. What impact has creative mentoring had on your life outside of the role? Similar to as you've just said, Hayley, it has definitely helped me be
more open about my creativity.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about making mistakes, haven't we? And I definitely now am much happier to make mistakes in life and have realised that it's the best way to move forward. So I'm much more likely to say yes to things than I used to, because for the reasons I've just been saying, that I've realised just because I've not done it before or I'm not an expert at something doesn't mean... I don't think I would have agreed to come and do a podcast if you'd asked me before I was a creative mentor. But yeah, it's just made me that much more confident to give things a go. And
you know what it is, to add to that, I would never have thought that. So, you know, sometimes we think things about ourselves, we feel like everyone can see it. So, you know, when you're nervous sometimes, it feels like people can see your heart beating through your top. But we can't. Do you get what I mean? So what I mean by that, that's a strength within itself. We may feel a certain way about ourselves, but that's not how we look to the outside world all the time. Do you get what I mean? So, yeah, say yes to everything.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And it's like, what was it, Richard Branson that said, even if you don't have the skills to do the job, say yes to the job and learn the skills on the job.
Yeah, I saw there was a quote very similar the other day that I wrote down in the back of my sketchbook, and it was something like, if you don't know how, just do it anyway. Yeah. And I thought, that is how I approach things now, definitely. And
you figure it out. And I think the beauty of creative mentoring, one of the beauties of creative mentoring is, like we're touching on mistakes, is letting the young people know mistakes aren't bad. Sometimes at that moment, in that instant moment in time, it may feel bad, but sometimes it's like you said, you can come back, you can learn, they're learning experiences. Do you know what I mean? You can always, I say always, in a lot of scenarios, you can come back from the mistake and do something different. The example I use with my kids is, it's like a computer game. You might be on a level and you keep losing at the same spot, but once you've lost, you think, oh, you know what? I need to do that next time. If I jump on there and then I do this over here, then I'll be able to get over that. Do you get what I mean? So it's being able to reflect. And I think the work you do with the young people, it's evident that you let them know that mistakes don't hold as much weight as you feel they hold. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, yeah. Thank you for that. And then finally on that section, do you have a favourite moment from your time delivering creative mentoring sessions? If you lot don't, I do. I read your service deliveries. So.
I would say my favourite moments are around laughter and just when you realise you're just having a bit of fun. So there's just one time where my mentee was just that there was some... in like a play area, playing with some kind of, I don't even know, I can't remember what they were exactly. It was like an ice scene with sort of polar bears and things like that. And I just came along and I put on a funny voice, and then we were just in hysterics. And it was just such, because he didn't know that I could do funny voices at that point. And then I did it, and it was just a very pleasant, enjoyable, silly time. Likewise with a much older mentee, of just working on a piece of music, and we both suddenly just totally got into it and were just kind of dancing around the room, just huge beams on our faces, just absolutely loving it.
Wonderful.
So, and it's just that connection. And it's just a human connection. It's just kind of being with someone and really enjoying being with them in that moment.
It's refreshing to hear as well. Do you think it helps the fact that you get to know one another? Yeah. I'm coming back to relationship building. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So where you said he'd never heard you make a funny voice before, that's part of his getting to know you. It's like, Richard does that. Yeah. He's all right, you know. Do you get what I mean? Things like that. So it's really nice to hear that. Really nice. Do you have any favourite moments, Hayley?
Yeah. Well, the one that comes to mind is a last session that I did with somebody, and we'd planned to we did quite a lot of photography together, and we planned to go to Bradgate Park and take the camera to Bradgate Park. And obviously it requires a bit of planning because we had to get permission from various people to take her out. And on the day that we were going, it was absolutely chucking it down. But it was our last session together, so it was kind of now or never. So I thought, we'll go anywhere anyway. And there is a nice cafe that we could just go and have a piece of cake and just drive back again if it's really going to be so terrible. And we went prepared with our raincoats and things, but it was really, when it was, like most of this year has been really, really raining. And so we got there, and it didn't look very inspiring to go on to Bradgate Park in the driving rain. So we went to the cafe, And I was kind of thinking, oh, this is a shame. It's kind of ruined our last session. But she seemed fine. And so I just kind of carried on with it. And I thought, I'll just check whether she does want to go for a walk onto the park. And I said, do you want to get going? Or did you want to go and have a little look at the park? I said, I appreciate it's not very inspiring right now. And she said, I'd like to go to see if there's any deer, because I'd told her that there were deer at the park. And so we put our coats on and off we went. And it was the kind of rain that it was like we'd had buckets of water tipped over us. It was dripping from us. And I said, let's just walk to the corner where you can, have you been to Bradgate Park? Where on the main path, there's like a bit where you get past all that hillside and you can see the open fields and things. I thought if we at least walk to there, we might see the deer. And I said to her, I don't know whether deer shelter in the rain, so it might be that we don't see any. And I was thinking, this whole day has been a bit of a flop, really. And we got to that point and walked around the corner, and there were hundreds of deer. So I think there's fallow and red deer, isn't there? There's like two different types.
You know more than me, Hayley. You know more than me.
Absolutely loads of them. And her face was just a picture. She was absolutely... Well, she was just delighted, and she's there with her camera, with my camera, with water dripping off the camera. And she actually got some lovely shots as well, because it was so rainy. It was all very atmospheric and quite misty and lovely. But I think she's going to remember that for the rest of her life. It was really, really special. I
was just about to say that you're creating memories.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And with it being raining and like you saying it's dripping off you, that's something that's not going to be forgotten. You're like, oh, I remember going to Bradgate Park with Hayley. She may do that with her own kids in the future.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
No, it was lovely.
So, and I think that's a common theme with mentoring. I think a lot of the things you do with these young people are going to stay with them for life. They're not going to forget you. They'll remember you. And when it comes to scenarios, maybe with their own young people, they may even be inspired to work with young people. The things that you showed them are going to come to light. Do you know what I mean? And I speak from experience in terms of the youth workers that I work with. Every time I work with young people, I'm thinking, what would Stuart say? Do you know what I mean? What would Sharma say? Like, it's those things there. So I think you do such a great job. I am
a bit curious to know what you said you had a favourite moments of ours. So now I'm curious what yours were. One of your own.
I like the one where you're at the school where the young person wasn't really on it at first. It's quite a new one. And there was a song that her boyfriend made.
Oh, yeah.
I like the way that one's progressed.
Yeah.
Because at first it was kind of like, was unsure how it was going to go and whatnot, and looking at the notes and seeing how it's going, it's like, wow. We was a bit nervous at the start of this one here. I think that was a great one. I think the one that loved the Samurai Cats. Was it Samurai Cats?
Yeah, Warrior Cats.
Warrior Cats.
Warrior Cats, yeah.
Samurai Cats was when I was a kid. Pizza Samurai Cats. That's what a cartoon was called.
Really?
But I think that one was really good as well, because I think you spotted, you was doing one thing and then you spotted that they liked the Warrior Cats, and then you changed and worked on a project about the Warrior Cats, and the young person was really engaged in that. I thought that was great.
He kept coming to me actually when we were talking earlier, because he was the one where in our very first session he wouldn't speak at all, and I thought, this is interesting. I'm not sure where we're going to get with this, and then he just picked up a beanbag that was lying around in the room and moved away from me and kind of threw it at me. And I was like, huh? And then I thought, oh, okay. And so I picked it up and threw it back to him, and he caught it. And he just spent the rest of that first session just throwing the beanbag backwards and forwards. And then kind of we varied the game a little bit, but he never spoke at all. He just was playing with that beanbag.
But I think that's what's great about your style. Do you get what I mean? Like, even when you have those nerves, those feelings of like maybe anxiety, a bit anxious about how it's going to go, you come through. Do you get what I mean? And then the relationship builds, and with that young person, it was just going from strength to strength to strength. Do you get what I mean? And I think that's really nice. With you, Richard, you've got the guy with the music that you started working with. I think that one there, I always think about that one, because we didn't know what we were going to do at all. Do you know what I mean?
No.
At all. And then he started writing lyrics, and then I saw the notes where he's practicing before you get there, and then you've built the stages, and then you've got 3 songs. Do you get what I mean? And just, I feel like the young person being engaged in all of that, especially with the circumstances that the young person was in, I think you've done such an amazing job there. Such an amazing job. And you could see that he really liked you.
It was a yeah, it was really, because I was worried about that starting that one as well, and it was great. I guess because you kind of, it's that thing of being open-minded.
Yeah.
And you have to remind yourself sometimes that other people are also feeling nervous or worried about something or don't know what's going to happen. And if you can do that, then it makes it a little bit easier. You just think, well...
Absolutely. And I think you've done a tremendous job with that young person.
Thank you.
Tremendous job. Do you know what I mean? And we know that, like I said, he's got circumstances that he's managing, and I think you've been a great support and a consistent... You can, like I said, I'm only reading notes. I'm not there and seeing it. So when I'm seeing notes, I'm getting the feel from the notes, do you know what I mean? And you're sending me...
Well, you heard the first one that he came up with.
Do you know what I mean?
And there were bits of that were just outstanding, which is not necessarily what you expect. You expect something to be... to work well and for the young person to have engaged and to have produced something, but the level of what he produced
high level,
was just like, okay.
Absolutely.
His voice is just, it's so natural and it's just there. And I was just, when he first said it, it's like, whoa, okay, good stuff.
And even though you talk about the young person now, do you get what I mean? Like, you can tell, like, it's making my face tingle. Do you get what I mean? Because it's really like, it's such a genuine relationship. Do you get what I mean? And I think, like I said, you've done really well with that one. And I think, I can't believe you didn't mention it, but the chessboard that you created, I think that is huge. Like I said to you earlier on, if that was to be in an auction, I think you'd get thousands of pounds for that. Thousands of pounds. And I think that to have the idea of creating a chessboard and the chess pieces and how you've put it together, it's amazing.
Well, chess was one of the first ways we kind of connected. And then we hadn't played for a while, and I mentioned it. And he went, oh, okay. And then it was just, okay, well, how do we do this? And I just kind of worked out various ways, and I'd prepare bits, and he would do bits when we were together. And yeah, it was kind of, it is a beautiful thing, yeah.
It absolutely is. You took the words out of my mouth. It's a beautiful thing because your practice is music.
Yeah.
So we're going to play chess. We're building chessboards and things like that. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. So I think both of you embody creativity to the max, because it's not necessarily your work practice, your artistic practice that you're doing during these hours. You're figuring out, what does a young person want to do? Do you get what I mean? Yeah. And you literally go in there, what would you like to do today? And that's where we go. So I think both of you are amazing, and there's more I could talk about, but I'll be here forever just giving you like, it's like parents' evening, isn't it?
Yeah, I keep thinking of other things to say, but
I think you do some great work, and I think it's creative, especially with you, Hayley, as well. You're creative in terms of taking the young people out, like Conkers and Bradgate Park and things like that. Everyone's got their own styles, and I think that's the beauty of it all. So thank you very much. Segueing on to, what advice would you give to new creative mentors?
I guess we've kind of touched on it already a little bit, but keeping an open mind, just go for it. Just relax and see what happens. And I guess the advice would be, you have the opportunity to be someone really important in a young person's life, someone that needs a role model or an extra role model, an adult who will be there with no agenda other than just being there and sharing something, and it's really powerful. So yeah, my advice would be, just go for it and see what happens.
You don't buy a lottery ticket, you can't win the lottery.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. I like that. And I think as well, to add to what you're saying, is it doesn't have to be so rigid.
No,
you don't have to be rigid in the way that you work. I think sometimes when you go in with that plan of how you want to work, it's destined to fail.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a case of just go and have a conversation, get to know the young person, find out what they like and things like that, and then go from there. But yeah, thank you for that. Hayley?
I think if you like young people, and if you care about young people, and if you are creative in some way yourself, you can do it, can't you? I think that's all you need. So don't worry about whether you've got a huge skill set and whether you've got loads of experience. I think if you've got those two, you do need to care about young people, I think, don't you? So if you can honestly say that and you can be creative, then you're going to be a good mentor, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, I agree. Completely agree. Like, definitely, it's kind of the same as what Richard's saying. You just got to go for it. Just go in there and just... and I think as well, you get to be a very important person in a young person's life without having to go too much outside of yourself. Do you know what I mean? It's all within who you are, if that makes sense. So, like you said, if you're creative and you can go in there with an open mind, then you're there. You're halfway there. It's all about connecting with the young person now. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to be somebody that you are not with the young people. So, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because there have been occasions where I have said no. We're talking like we will literally do anything, and you do try to, don't you?
Yeah.
But, for example, the first time I met one child, she was wanting me to go on the trampoline in the garden with her, and I had no idea whether this trampoline would take my weight, or I really didn't want to. So I had to say to her, "Oh, I'm really sorry. I do want to do something that you want to do, but can we ever think of something?" We ended up going to the park, so she could still play in that way. But I wasn't going on that trampoline.
It's that openness and that honesty. Do you know what I mean? I think they'd prefer that. And it goes back to what Richard was saying earlier on. It's about explaining to the young person why.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
And actually, just be honest.
Yeah.
No, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate why you're saying it, but no.
Yeah.
And it's not, but, let's do something else.
Yeah.
It's that thing of, you can say no, or you can disagree, or you can take a different direction. But if you can do it in a light way, where it's not a problem, it's stopping things being problems.
Yeah.
Is a really useful skill, or seeing a problem as just an opportunity. All those kind of cliches, but it is true. If something doesn't work, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because we'll have to do something else then, won't
That's
we?
it.
Yeah.
And then we'll just get on with it.
And what I wanted to add to that as well, for new creative mentors, is utilize the area. It doesn't always have to be at home, doesn't always have to be at school. It could be in a community venue. You may organize a trip somewhere, things like that. I think don't be afraid to think outside the box in terms of where you deliver the sessions and things like that, because I think those things, as a kid, they work. Do you get what I mean? It's escapism. Like, you love to get out of your normal routine. Oh, what? We're going here? Okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, my kids are begging me to go on the bus. I hate the bus, but I've got to go and catch a bus at some point during the holidays. Do you know what I mean? Just so they can experience being on the bus. Do you know what I mean? And I think small things like that go so far.
Yeah.
So far. Do you know what I mean? So the next one I've got is, what advice would you give to those thinking of becoming a creative mentor?
I feel like we've sort of said it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Like what you're saying,
don't
just
worry,
go for it.
Yeah.
for it. If it isn't for you, you'll find out.
Yeah.
And it won't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, just try it. And but I think what you said, if you like children, if you're kind of if you're not, if well, what am I trying to say? If you don't like children, don't do it.
Yeah.
That's the other side of
Basically,
it.
it's not a wage. Do you know what I mean? It's more than the money
Yeah.
that you do these works for. Like, I was saying this to, I was at a meeting the other week for the Violence Reduction Network, and they've got a COG group to where I'm part of this group that helps steer what the Violence Reduction Network are going to do for the next 12 months. So I was saying that I'm a youth worker and a youth mentor, and I was saying, if it was about, they said something about money, and I said, if it was about the money, I wouldn't do it. Do you get what I mean? Like, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just think it's a tight industry. There's not enough going around in the industry itself. Do you get what I mean? It's more than the money for me. It's the connection and the want to help young people progress.
Yeah.
You just want to help young people progress to the next stage. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully they'll pass what they've learned on to the next generation. Each one teach one. Do you know what I mean? So I think you've got to like the kids, first of all. Like, first of all, do you like children? Yep. Okay, then cool. You're halfway there.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's just being able to, I think as a creative, we've spoke about how we don't necessarily follow our artistic practice, but I think that's all part of being creative. If you're creative, it's not too hard to be able to try something else because you've got the principles of creativity already. So, closing question. If you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be?
I think
So many. Don't shave your head, Richard. Don't try rapping. Although I'll take that back, maybe.
Yeah, you've got to try it.
You've got to try it. You've got to.
Actually, yeah. No, be yourself. Don't stress so much. Don't stress.
it is a cliche, isn't it, the be yourself? But I think that's mine as well, because you worry so much as a young person, don't you, about whether you fit in and whether what you think is going to be accepted. But if there's, I think being creative helps you to realise that there's always somebody that likes what you do and likes who you are. If you're just yourself, you will find your people and your thing, won't you? And just trust it and don't worry about whether everybody's up for it or not.
Trust the process.
Yeah. Being authentic is 99% of it, in whatever way. And sometimes things won't work, and it just don't stress about it.
Yeah.
You know, life is not a smooth, straightforward journey. But yeah,
definitely not. I'm trying to think of something, but I've done this about 3 times. I'm creating a manual for myself. But I think I echo what you guys are saying. I think be yourself. And sometimes it's hard to have the confidence to be yourself, whether it's your peer group or whatever it is. But I just think be yourself, because everybody right now doesn't know who they are. And I think sometimes we follow others thinking that they know what's going on, but they've got no clue themselves. Do you get what I mean? So I think it's a case of just try and be yourself as much as possible and trust the process. It will work out for you. Yeah, I think that's me. But yeah, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Hayley. My name is Levi Knight, Youth Program Coordinator for the Mighty Creatives, and you've been listening to the Mighty Voices podcast. See you next episode. Thank you.